inside City Hall.
History will judge this chamber for how we act.
The U.S. Senate has rejected a war powers bill that would have required congressional approval for the Trump administration's military campaign in Iran.
If I knew that something like this would happen to one of my children, I wouldn't have come.
Our Kelly Mena caught up with the mother of Dylan Contreras, the Bronx public school student who is still in detention by ICE nearly 10 months after being arrested. We'll bring you their conversation. Up in Albany, the state legislature held a joint hearing on white-collar crime and fraud. We'll talk it over with State Senator Senator Myrie. For the best news, debate, and analysis of New York politics, join us inside City Hall. Good evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Wednesday, March 4th, 2026. I'm Errol Lewis. The U.S. Senate just voted to strike down an effort to rein in President Donald Trump's powers in Iran. A similar vote in the U.S. House of Representatives is scheduled for tomorrow, but it faces an unlikely path against a Republican majority. Our Shannon Ryan joins us now from Washington, D.C. with tonight's top story. Good evening, Shannon. And was this measure doomed from the start?
Errol, look, well, with Republicans in total control, we knew that this was almost certain to fail in the Senate, and it will almost certainly do the same in the House tomorrow. And even on the off chance that it were to make it to the president's desk, there still wouldn't be enough votes to override the president's veto, right? He's not going to vote to rein in his own powers. Still, Democrats trudged forward with this. Today, we asked them why.
I love this country. I love the United States of America to the point that, like everybody here, I signed up to serve and risk my life. And then I lost brothers and sisters who had that same love for country and love for each other.
Hudson Valley Congressman Pat Ryan stood with other Democratic House members and glanced down at his bracelet, inscribed with the names of dead battle buddies.
And we take very seriously and solemnly the duty,
reflecting on how to best honor them.
And to me, it's to speak out. It's to say another generation should not go fight in an open-ended, ill-conceived, regime change war in the Middle East.
Ryan and the other Democratic veterans pledged support for a war powers resolution, which is up for a vote in both chambers this week. If passed, it would require the president obtain congressional approval to continue attacking Iran.
So it would undermine our national security and our troops at the height of this operation to order an immediate withdrawal.
Hudson Valley Republican Congressman Mike Lawler dismissed the resolution as a publicity stunt. It invokes a Vietnam-era law that every president since its enactment has sidestepped, claiming it infringes on their constitutional rights as commander-in-chief.
With respect, this is not symbolic. I mean, this is central to our entire democracy.
Even though analysts predict the measure will ultimately fail, with Republicans holding the majority, Ryan was resolute that it was not a waste of time, but a worthy referendum.
So every American deserves to know, at a minimum, where does your representative stand on sending our blood and treasure overseas versus spending it here at home?
And Errol, there's a really critical rift between how Republicans and Democrats are interpreting the language for that initial 1973 resolution that this new resolution is invoking. So Republicans interpret it in a way where they believe that the president adhered to protocol, right? He notified Congress beforehand with that Gang of Eight briefing. And with the way they're looking at it, he still has 60 days until he potentially needs congressional authorization, whereas Democrats view this as a situation in which the strike was not justified, where the president could not unilaterally authorize it. They believe that he needed congressional authorization from the jump and that he still needs it right now.
And so, Shannon, there are a number of Republicans that have voiced support for the very position that Congressman Ryan was discussing, meaning forever wars or something that Donald Trump promised he would avoid on the campaign trail. And there are a number of Republican supporters of the president who feel the same way. Are their voices kind of muted or silent at this point?
Errol, their voices are certainly there. This is technically bipartisan legislation, right? You have Representative Thomas Massie, who helped co-author this. However, there are very few of them and not enough expected to move the needle.
Okay, thanks very much, Shannon. Nearly 10 months after ICE agents detained a public school student here in the city, his mother is continuing to fight for his release. Our Kelly Mena sat down with her and filed this report. Good evening, Kelly.
Good evening, Errol. And that's Raisa Contreras. She's turning her pain into purpose for the last year. While her son has been detained by ICE, she has been using that time to advocate for his release on the outside and getting support from high-level New York politicians.
If I knew that something like this would happen to one of my children, I wouldn't have come. I would have, I don't know, maybe found another way, found a way to study, to live somewhere else.
Through tears, Raisa Contreras tells of the pain she's living through as her son remains in Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention. It's been nearly 10 months since she last saw her son, Dylan Contreras. The now 21-year-old was detained back in May at 26 Federal Plaza, becoming the first public school student from the Bronx to be held by ICE.
He was my helper, my buddy, my friend. I live alone with my kids. He was there for me and his siblings and me for them. And unfortunately, it's like taking a piece from a game board and not being able to play with it anymore. It's not the same.
The family went from sharing happy memories to being separated across state lines. Her son is being held at the Moshannon Valley Processing Center in Pennsylvania. Raisa is unable to visit, telling New York One.
Because there is fear. If God wants me to go right now, they aren't asking questions. They just simply take people. And if that were to happen, what would happen to my young children? And I wouldn't take them either because I don't want to put them at risk. I don't want them to suffer more trauma than what they suffered to get here.
Despite her sadness, Raisa continues to speak out and work toward her son's release. She joined Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer at the State of the Union address last month. She says the invitation gave her a rare opportunity to spotlight the experiences immigrants are having under President Donald Trump.
I wish that the president would for a moment think, too, that not everyone is a criminal, that not all of us that come here are going to do bad things. We are looking to be a part of society to the best of our ability.
The Trump administration has argued that the immigrants they are detaining and deporting are violent and dangerous. New York One reached out to ICE and the Department of Homeland Security for a response on why Dylan Contreras remains detained. We did not hear back. Last May, DHS said in a statement on X that Dylan entered the United States illegally from Venezuela and is now subject to expedited removal. His friends and supporters argue he's been a model for the community.
He's a father figure to his two siblings because his dad died. You know, he helps his mom. They all work together. He goes to the park. He loves nature. You know, so he's not this evil kind of person that they're trying to say that the immigrants are.
Power Malu is the president of Rock NYC, a grassroots organization that provides resources, opportunities, community, and connections to immigrants. He has been working closely with the Contreras family. Malu recently called on Mayor Mamdani to add Contreras' name to the list of immigration cases given to Trump.
It was just hope that there'll be an amendment made on that list.
City Hall and Contreras' lawyers are in contact. In the meantime, Raisa says her new American dream is that her son returns home.
I only want to have my family together. I want for us to be a family again and that he gets his freedom. Imagine, a kid, he entered at 20 years old and now he's 21. He practically lost 1 year of his life in there where he could have done so much.
And the New York Legal Assistance Group, who is representing Dylan Contreras, has filed a habeas petition challenging his detention. They're hoping an immigration judge will be able to hear that case soon, Errol.
Is this an instance, as we've reported before, where he's being bounced all over the country? Do they know where he is physically for sure?
Yes, and, you know, his lawyers and community groups are visiting him quite regularly. It is a distance to get from here to that facility in Pennsylvania, but he has been there the majority of the time. Unlike the previous cases you mentioned, he has not gone all over the country for long periods of time, except for the first week that he was detained. He's been at this one facility in Pennsylvania. But but it's very far away.
And do the lawyers believe that he has a legal claim and that they'll be able to get him out and have him stay?
Yes, they do believe that because he entered the country legally through what is known as the CPP app. Under the previous Biden administration, he followed the right steps, and he has a right to asylum, and he has a right to be in this country.
He's applying for asylum.
Yes, they have a new asylum case. It's kind of a complicated process because of what happened that day at 26 Federal Plaza, but they have 2 cases going for him, and they're hoping that both of them will be successful.
Okay, thanks very much, Kelly. It is time now for a break. Coming up, City Council member Vicky Paladino says her First Amendment rights are being violated after being charged by the council's Standards and Ethics Committee over Islamophobic posts on social media. We'll take a closer look at how legal experts and voters in her district are reacting. Stay with us.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
The storm came through with 120-mile-an-hour winds through our neighborhood. My daughter had to evacuate to our house while we were out of town. Sure enough, power goes out. When the generator kicked back on, it, of course, powered the Spectrum modem. She didn't lose service, and we didn't lose connectivity with her through the entire storm. We both breathed a sigh of relief. To have her feel safe and us feel reassured that she was okay was priceless.
Real customers, real reliability. To get the most reliable internet, visit spectrum.com/stay connected.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Going into the 2026 election, local races will determine national policy, from the economy to public safety. From the governor's race to the balance of power in Washington, this year's ballot has no shortage of important choices. Let Spectrum News New York One be your resource for balanced, up-to-date coverage and analysis, so you can know what the issues are and how they impact your community. Always dedicated, always local, always on. Decision 2026 on Spectrum News New York One. Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Republican City Council member Vicky Paladino is defending her social media posts and planning a formal response after the council's ethics committee said that it has begun disciplinary proceedings against her. Paladino insists that her First Amendment rights are being violated. Our Ayanna Harry joins me now with a closer look. Good evening, Ayanna.
Good evening, Errol. Tonight, Vicky Paladino is indeed standing defiant, telling New York One she believes the city council cannot publish her for simply expressing her views, but there's more to the story.
To review council members' postings on social media and to see these types of charges, it's not something that is frequently done.
She's known as an outspoken Republican member of the city council. And now Vicky Paladino is building a legal team and gearing up for a fight. All after the council's Standards and Ethics Committee charged Paladino over social media comments viewed by some as Islamophobic.
They can remove her from committee. They can censure her, which is explaining why they disagree with her statements and publicly reprimand her.
The council's Progressive Caucus called for ethics charges against Paladino last December after the Queens lawmaker wrote and later deleted on X, "We need to take very seriously the need to begin the expulsion of Muslims from Western nations." In the months since then, Paladino's continued to draw criticism for her social media remarks, prompting Council Speaker Julie Menin to limit Paladino's committee assignments.
I have so strongly condemned Councilmember Paladino's rhetoric repeatedly.
After a closed-door meeting Monday, the Standards and Ethics Committee charged Paladino with engaging in disorderly behavior and violating the council's anti-harassment and discrimination policy over recent social media posts, prompting disciplinary proceedings. Paladino fired back on X, insisting her comments are protected by the Constitution, writing, "Make no mistake, this mockery of the First Amendment will not stand." Employment attorney John Bell explains.
When people argue about free speech, it's more about the government charging you criminally for free speech, and there's no criminality here. The government can't do that. And if you have ethical standards against discrimination and harassment that everyone's aware of, if you have a policy, of course, the agency can now discipline somebody for breaching those policies.
In Paladino's Northern Queens district, voters were split on whether they believe a council member should face consequences for online comments.
Free speech, say what you want to say. Say what you have to say.
So you think it's free speech?
Free speech, yeah. I mean, I do want to preserve free speech and, you know, everything this country stands for. But it would be nice if politicians were a little bit more sensitive, maybe.
Paladino was given 5 days to respond to that Monday vote by the Ethics Committee, and within the coming weeks, they will schedule a time for Paladino to appear before that committee behind closed doors, Errol.
So she's got her problems, but the district has a problem too. I mean, if she's separated from some of the committees that she might have served on, the district arguably is having less influence.
That's absolutely correct, and we already do know that the council speaker has limited the committee roles that Vicky Paladino currently has, and so that could be scaled back even further if the council's ethics committee does find that there should be some disciplinary action taken against her. Of course, the ethics committee has a wide range of options that they could potentially take depending on the conclusion that they reach.
So at the same time as she's taking the post down, so that's, you know, an implied maybe second thought that she's giving to it, she's also saying she has the right to do it, and I guess implying that she might do it again.
That's correct. And so the first post that we're talking about was posted back in December 14th. That one was taken down, but there have been other posts since then that many people have described as Islamophobic. Many of those posts have continued to stay up. And so people feel that this is Vicky Paladino doubling down and saying, this is what I believe, this is what I want to express, and I'm going to stand by it. And as you heard from that employment attorney, if there are internal workplace rules within the city council that her posts are violating, they do, it seems, have jurisdiction to potentially discipline her.
You know, I was going to say, that's where the sort of the clash begins, right? Because you can stand on the steps of City Hall, you say whatever you want. You go inside, it's a workplace, there are Muslim employees, there are others who are going to be offended by some of these antics.
And that's what the charges brought by the Ethics Committee are really focused on, is how they believe it's violating current policies set forth by the current council.
Oh, okay. Thanks very much, Ayanna. Two of the city's most prominent religious figures, retired Archbishop Timothy Cardinal Dolan and the Reverend A.R. Bernard, are stepping into new roles as chief chaplains of the NYPD. It's a high-profile job for spiritual leaders who are well accustomed to life in the public eye. Our Dan Rivoli was at police headquarters for the swearing-in today and filed this report.
My duty will be to affirm the life, the goodness, and light, while also standing next to you as you witness and do your best to stop the death, the evil and darkness.
Archbishop Emeritus Timothy Dolan, soon after his retirement from one job, has more public life to live. Dolan and Reverend A.R. Bernard of Brooklyn's Christian Cultural Center were sworn in as chief chaplains of the NYPD at police headquarters on Wednesday.
I believe that spiritual health and moral clarity are not luxuries for policing. They are necessities.
To kick off the ceremony, Mayor Mamdani spoke about the burden police officers shoulder.
Chaplains of the NYPD have held the great responsibility of lifting that burden, of ensuring that no officer is forced to carry the weight of duty alone.
Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch said the two leaders shaped the moral and religious landscape of the city.
They are not changing who they are. They are choosing to bind their leadership to this institution alongside the officers who protect this city.
As chief chaplains, Dolan and Bernard will oversee 11 chaplains at the NYPD. Both men are stepping into the role after developing prominent and influential public lives, weighing in on government policy and maintaining deep ties to political leaders.
This is New York City. So they're men who, humble men, you can see, have had tremendous positions in their churches. And here they are serving the largest police department and the most sophisticated police department in the world.
George Grasso, a retired NYPD official, recalled how he leaned on the chaplains after the 9/11 terror attacks.
I was with them, we comforted each other, and I was with them as they comforted our families when we were still figuring out what we were going to do in dealing with the greatest catastrophe we ever saw.
During the ceremony, Dolan had this friendly moment with Mayor Mamdani after the prelate recently told a Catholic news outlet that he was ticked off that the mayor never invited him to the inauguration or showed up to the installation of the new archbishop. Perhaps all is forgiven. Dan Rivoli, New York 1.
It is time now for a break. Coming up, Governor Hochul is changing her tune on a landmark climate change law that was passed in 2019, which she previously supported. We'll explain why in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news and in-depth interviews of the hottest shows on and off Broadway. So grab a seat, because this is a show you won't want to miss. Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for Onstage.
Onstage is presented by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Discover which Cadillac is right for you and elevate your journey.
I had a heart attack about 1.5 years ago, and so now I have an ICD implant that needs stable and reliable internet to give routine checks and daily reports to my cardiologist. When my cardiologist told me he wasn't getting the information he needed, me and my fiance looked into better internet providers, and we found Spectrum. As soon as we switched, he said he saw every daily report, every routine check that they did. It made us feel like we were back in control of my life.
Real customers, real reliability. To get the most reliable internet, visit Spectrum.com.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time. And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard.
At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York 1 to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood, because our city never stops moving.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories, but first,
stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. After years of defending the state's landmark climate change law that was passed back in 2019, Governor Kathy Hochul is now making the case to roll back parts of it, arguing that the fast-approaching deadlines aimed at curbing emissions could be too costly for New Yorkers. Our State House reporter Bernadette Hogan joins me now with more. Good evening, Bern.
Good evening, Errol. And the governor did warn, at least within the last 6 months, that the state likely would miss the first of those goals. But now what has changed? The governor is up for re-election, and she has already seen in neighboring New Jersey the success of the now Democratic governor when she was running on the high cost of utility bills. One of the biggest defenders of New York's ambitious climate law was Governor Kathy Hochul in 2024.
I want to make sure that we have money to electrify everything, our buildings, our school buses, making sure that we wean ourselves from the fossil fuel industries.
Now she says the benefits don't outweigh the cost, at least not right now.
What I'm trying to do is just sound the alarm. What I'm foreseeing then is for us to meet the goals on the time frame that was set by the legislature. There's going to be enormous costs to families.
Citing new price estimates released by the state's entity conducting energy research, finding New Yorkers and businesses will face high costs if the current law is not changed.
There's a requirement in the law that says we have to reduce emissions by 40% by 2030. And the DEC, our Environment Department, has to write a rule to achieve that. They have yet to issue that rule. They were sued by a group of environmental groups, and in state Supreme Court, a judge said, they're right, you have to issue this rule. So what NYSERDA did in this memo, it's only looking at the impact of that cap and trade rule.
Figures show if the law stays as it is, the price of gas could spike. Upstaters using oil and natural gas could also see their bills rise by more than $4,000 annually. And those in New York City could expect to pay an average of $2,300 more per year. Blaming the pandemic and changes in federal policy.
A lot of the clean energy proposals that would make this plan be successful, offshore wind, shut down by the Trump administration, solar projects, the subsidies are gone.
But others argue
I do think this is a bit of a scare tactic. I think, again, this is the worst possible scenario. We think that the administration has a lot of flexibility in how they choose to implement it.
Supporters say the state shouldn't use cost concerns to slow down progress already made.
And the Champlain Hudson Power Express is going to bring 1,250 megawatts of hydropower into New York City. And then we have the two offshore wind projects are going to bring about 1.7 gigawatts of energy on to New York over the next 2 years. That's going to start making a difference.
Although Hochul didn't include how she wants to change the law in her January state budget proposal, sources say she's angling to convince legislators behind closed doors. But so far, they're not on board.
I just want to know what the proposal is. So at this point, I don't know what there is to discuss.
Up for re-election this year, affordability concerns are top of mind for Hochul.
I think in the political calculation, this supports efforts that are going to be made during the budget. It's a time when the governor has maybe the best leverage during the course of the legislative cycle.
And New York One spoke to one of the lawyers representing the plaintiffs in that case, and they say they're not in favor of changing the law, but they will talk to the governor about a plan B with which they can possibly, amend some of these sticking points.
I mean, if the people the businesses, frankly, that are going to have to absorb some of these new rules are asking the governor to intervene, that could be the source, but that doesn't guarantee that she's going to be doing it on her own. She's going to need some political allies, right?
Right. She's going to need allies in the legislature, but also she is kind of in luck with the timing because of the state budget. She can shove whatever she wants into the larger bills, along with things that other members of the legislature might like. She also has, again, neighboring New Jersey, the case of Mikey Sherrill, the new governor, on her side because utility bills and the high cost of affordability. She just saw that be a very successful message for Sherrill. Now she's turning to still the high cost of bills in New York State. She's trying to connect directly to New Yorkers and constituents and have them perhaps lobby the lawmakers, but still, there's a couple weeks left, and the legislature really supports the climate law, so it depends on what she's going to trade with them in order to get what she wants.
Now, interestingly, her Republican opponent, Bruce Blakeman, has said, we should be fracking,
Right.
in the southern tier and other parts of New York State, which I guess gives her quite a lot of room here. I mean, he's talking about going in a very different direction.
Right, and something that really we haven't talked about seriously probably since before former Governor Andrew Cuomo, or at least right at the beginning of his term, right? The governor was asked about that today, and she said, I don't think we need to go there yet. However, the question was also posed because of what's going on in Iran and how there are concerns that energy prices could go up, not just in New York, but nationwide. The governor said, well, that's not on the table, but she is saying that geopolitics and the Trump administration's policies are making it harder for her to make the case that, they should really ramp up this very expensive climate policy.
Okay. Thanks very much, Bernadette. We are going to take a short break now. When we come back, I'll be joined by State Senator Senator Myrie to talk about a hearing held earlier today in Albany about a bill that would strengthen penalties for white-collar crimes. Stay with us.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Perk.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
The Nanakuli Valley is the largest Hawaiian community in the state of Hawaii. Because of Spectrum and their investment, Alulike is a place that people can come and access technology. Many of our participants don't have computers at home. We have programs that help students, that help adults get employment. Spectrum gives us the tools to help more people get there.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Lawmakers in Albany held a public hearing today to consider updating white-collar crime laws. A bill called the Securing Customer Assets Against Malfeasance, the SCAM Act for short, is meant to deter misconduct by large corporations by imposing a new set of penalties. Joining me now to talk about the bill and much more, we've got State Senator Senator Myrie. His district includes all or parts of Crown Heights, East Flatbush, Park Slope, Prospect Heights, Prospect Lefferts Gardens, and Windsor Terrace. He also serves as chair of the Codes Committee. Welcome back to the program. Good to see you.
Good to be back with you, Errol.
Why do white-collar criminal penalties need to be updated?
Well, the last time that we updated our scheme to defraud laws, many of the statutes that we used to go after this type of crime was 1986. And a lot of us have, I guess, fond memories of the 80s, but we don't have a full appreciation for the fact that there was no internet, there was no email, there was no cell phone, no smartphone, no Bitcoin, no blockchain, no Zelle, no Venmo. And our fraud statutes have not caught up to all of the technology that has advanced over the past 40 years. And the truth is New Yorkers are getting scammed on a daily basis by a lot of these new technologies, and we don't have the tools in our statutes to hold bad actors accountable. We have spent a lot of time and a lot of resources as a court system, a judicial system, a law enforcement apparatus, focusing on street crime, and that is important. People need to feel safe. But we have not paid the same attention to white-collar crime, and it's why I held a hearing today, why I introduced the SCAM Act, so that we can update these laws to put money back in the pockets of New Yorkers.
Give me an example of a white-collar crime where the penalty is just out of whack, meaning that there either is no penalty or it involves a technology that didn't exist at the time that the laws were originally drafted.
Well, let's consider cryptocurrency. We hear a lot about this in the news. We're hearing about crypto ATMs, and we have a lot of our folks in our communities who may get a WhatsApp message that says, I have a perfect opportunity for you to make some quick money through cryptocurrency. You follow through on that offer. You get your money stolen in cryptocurrency. There is nothing in our criminal laws right now that allow for you to get that money back, because our statutes don't consider cryptocurrency a traditional asset in the same way that we consider money. But even if you take it outside of that context, if you are doing stock fraud and you take advantage of one individual for a certain amount of money, you have a higher penalty than if you, for the same amount, took advantage of hundreds of victims. And that sort of disparity between where the statutes are and where our reality is the thing that I'm trying to close so we can have people be held accountable.
Okay. Are authorities unable to prosecute certain crimes because the laws are outdated? I just think of us surely having some kind of a common law fraud equivalent, meaning if you steal, if you defraud people, there's got to be something in the law now that would enable you to get hauled into court.
Well, one would think so, Errol, and you have a particular appreciation for this as an astute lawyer, but part of the difficulty is because the laws are so old and archaic, the resources that it takes to bring such a suit, if you're using common law or the common perception of what fraud is, you would have a much harder time than if you had a statute that spoke specifically to the type of fraud that is pervasive today. And also, if you're a bad actor, you can say, listen, this law does not apply to me. This law didn't contemplate the type of activity that I'm doing, and what I'm doing is not illegal. It may feel bad, it may look bad, it may sound bad, but it is not illegal, and that is what I'm trying to fix with the Scam Act.
Okay. You also introduced something called the Restoring Integrity and Preventing Outright Fraud in Financial Systems Act. That's RIPOFF for short. I like the way you're using the titles of these laws. Is that different from what you're working on now with the Scam Act?
So as the very famous musician, the artist formerly known as, the Scam Act is formally the Rip-Off Act. We updated the title, so it is in substance the same bill, just a different name.
Got it. I know your colleagues have a lot on the ball, just like you. How come none of them got to this up until now? Because I looked at this and, I mean, you're absolutely right. There are penalties that could almost be written off as the cost of doing business because they have not been updated. If nothing else, you'd think that the dollar amounts of the fines would be increased by now.
This is the part that has been startling to me. When I first started looking into this issue, I made my way to the legislative library up here in Albany just to confirm that I wasn't bugging and that this was in fact true, that these laws had not been updated in so long. And if you look at some of the old legislative records, the conversations, the letters that were submitted when this law was changed, you could transplant those letters to today and apply those same principles. I can't speak to, frankly, why this has not been accomplished over the last 40 years. I can only say that the Democrats have been in control of the upper house of the chamber for only 8 of those last 40 years, and I'm glad that we're finally getting around to it.
Okay, fair enough. We'll keep an eye on that. Let me switch topics and ask you about the city. The different proposals that have come out of City Hall so far involve either raising taxes on the ultra-wealthy or perhaps even increasing property taxes. From your point of view, what are the options that the city should be pursuing?
Look, I think that this state legislature, and particularly in the state Senate, we have proposed progressive tax increases for many of the years that I have been up here, certainly before this new administration has taken hold. And I think that is going to be an ongoing conversation as we get closer to the budget passing. I have represent a district where the property taxes are assessed very differently within one single district. And I have more affluent places in my district that pay a lower property tax than less affluent places in my district. That disparity, where usually it is a black homeowner that is paying a higher property tax, is something that we should be discussing and that we should be tackling. And I think before any conversation around raising property taxes, we should be talking about how we fix what I believe to be an unjust system before we take the next step.
When we keep hearing from Governor Hochul that she's not in favor of increasing taxes on high-income New Yorkers, we often forget that it has to go through the legislature anyway. Is there any sentiment, as far as you know, in the Democratic majority in the Senate to actually go ahead and do that?
You know, we have had, as I mentioned before, in years past, we have raised some of the taxes on some of New York's highest earners, and they are a population that already pays a significant amount of tax and contribute to the revenue that we need. But I think all things should be on the table, certainly in a time where we are in the midst of an affordability crisis. And I think that there are some proposals on the table that would allow for New York City to just have the power to impose some of these taxes, and that doesn't come off of the state public fisc. And I think that that is going to be a part of the conversations next week. The Assembly and the Senate will be releasing their budget positions, and I think a lot more will be clear on this tax conversation at the end of next week.
Okay, we will certainly be watching for that. Thanks so much for spending some time with us, Senator Myrie.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, we're going to take a short break now. When we come back, we'll talk about a new Siena College poll showing where things stand in the race for governor and much more. I'll be joined by my weekly politics panel. Stay with us.
After 30 years of forecasting for New York, I've learned it takes a dedicated team to cover all the weather our city has to offer. As chief meteorologist at New York One, I'm honored to be able to help New Yorkers plan their day.
Morning, noon, or night, our team is here to bring you accurate forecasts you can count on, from severe weather updates to our Weather on the Ones. Watch the New York One weather experts with your Weather on the Ones on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
I moved from Dallas to Los Angeles all by myself. The order of things I wanted to set up was internet, water, then power. I needed to take a shower, but I really did need the internet for work and to watch my shows. That's kind of a crazy thing to admit in front of a camera. Pretend I didn't say that. I got to Spectrum. I was so relieved that I was getting the best bang for my buck. It was a huge weight taken off of my shoulders.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. A new Siena University poll shows Governor Kathy Hochul with a 20-point lead over her Republican challenger, Bruce Blakeman, 51% to 31%. Now, that is a solid lead, but it's down from January's 26-point lead. So Blakeman can actually point to some degree of momentum. Joining me now to talk about that and much more is my weekly politics panel. Laura Namias is a senior reporter covering city and state politics at Bloomberg News. And joining us, as he does every Wednesday, is New York One political commentator Herson Barrero. Thanks for being here. What factors, Laura, do you think could turn this into a close race?
The things that could combine to make it tighter, I think, would be maybe an increase in crime. That's what sort of plagued Kathy Hochul in her first election when it was really narrow against Lee Zeldin. A continuing bad economy, if somehow that becomes the Democrats' fault in the public mind, that could really drag her down. If Zoran Mamdani were to do something really unpopular and her opponent is able to successfully tag her as being in league with him, but the likelihood of all of that, I mean, we just don't know. Right now, she's in an incredibly good position, I would say, with no challenger on the left, looking in command of the Trump situation as much as one can be, and
she's got what looks like right now a glide path to re-election.
I agree with all the points that Laura made. And in addition to that fact, the factor, except that I don't think that crime increasing is going to work. You know, that boogeyman didn't work during last year's election. It didn't work for Andrew Cuomo. There's a different climate or an electorate that we have to deal with. I do think that the left can hurt her. If the socialists, the New York Socialist Democratic America, that can hurt her if they go out of the way. Mamdani is staying clear of that. There could be a factor that could play into this, which is the warmonger now, the criminal in chief in the White House, and how that impacts in New York. I think everything else will fall into line. I think Blakeman, for me, I find him boring. It's like the same line that Republicans have been using against Democratic governors and Kathy Hochul. It's, you know, people are leaving the state. Yeah, well, that doesn't, you can't put that on Kathy Hochul or any other elected official. So I don't see where Blakeman can make inroads. I think that he's with the president, very unpopular, the most unpopular president in my lifetime here in New York. So I don't see where this goes or benefits him.
That poll had him at 60% of New Yorkers have no idea who he is. So he's going to have to spend a crazy amount of money just to get people to know his name. Right.
Well, that in some ways I thought was maybe some indirectly good news for him, because if you're at, you know, if you're at 26% and nobody knows who you are, you've got nowhere to go but up.
Right. Theoretically.
I mean, he will have to spend a lot of money.
And when they find out, then they'll find out that he's also a Trumper.
Which some people like and some people don't. We'll see. The same poll showed that 62% of New Yorkers actually support the idea of increasing taxes on households making $1 million a year or more. Does the popularity of taxing the rich make Albany more likely to possibly approve an increase? As we found out from Senator Myrie, this is going to get talked about next week.
Well, they may get talk about it. I'm sorry, Laura, that I jumped in, but, you know, since I'm a broke New Yorker, I don't care what they say. You know, if you made that money, and people talk of $1 million or more, it depends on where you live in New York. Now, I'm not saying that it's cheap, but there's ways to do it. Why don't you cut some of the expenditures of the really big money makers and corporations that actually, the tax increase ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. But if some of the incentives that they do, the write-offs that corporations have, maybe you can gain some money from there, which I think is an easier way for them to do it. So, you know, if you got a business and you write off this, and that, and so you could buy another yacht, that kind of stuff, it could be done.
Yeah. Well, I was really interested in what Senator Myrie said, and maybe I'm going to follow up with him later. He had an interesting proposal for something a little bit different than what I think we've heard before about maybe like a home rule message or something, but I think there's almost no chance that this gets done in the budget, if at all. There is an outside possibility that the state legislature could, after the budget process is over, put an income tax hike into what they call the big ugly, which is like the last piece of legislation that gets done at the end of the year. Or there's also a standalone bill that's being carried by State Senator John Liu, who I would note made some really interesting arguments when Mamdani came up to Albany for Tin Cup Day and was giving him a hard line of questioning, I would say, too. So I don't know that it's a done deal. I think if it gets done at all, it would be outside of the budget process, and then Kathy Hochul would probably veto it.
I mean, the formula for success has been to tie such an increase to something in particular. So like the payroll mobility tax, you know, like if you're benefiting from the services of the MTA, well, then you should kick in a little bit more. People kind of get that. The congestion pricing, frankly, you know, the business community supported it. They're like, yeah, well, sure, we need to make some changes. And of course, universal child care is the example, although Cuomo and now Governor Hochul have said, well, we'll just pay it out of existing funds rather than raise new money. So, you know, the prospects of new money get to be that much dimmer.
Well, I think, and it's appropriate, that is fiscal responsibility on their part, and also in an election year, they can convince taxpayers, we're just going to take from places we're wasting money, and it's your money, it's our money, which people forget, whether it's city, state, or federal, it's your money, it's our money. So I think that that kind of explanation may work. I don't think that this thing of raising taxes, the property taxes, or, you know, it's just people like right now are beginning to feel it also at the gas pump. By the way, like a fool, I had my car that only needed, I found out $20 because I said, oh, the warmonger is there, it's going to start increasing. My wife said, how about if we get a few tanks to fill up? I'm serious. You start thinking about all these things that we know they're going to rise because of the, you know, oil is going to go up. So I think that they have to be very careful, proceed anybody. And socialists who want the increased abilities, be careful, because this could hurt a lot of people in the way you're going about it.
Let's take a short break. We've got more to talk about with this politics panel. We'll do that in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
We have so many ways to stay connected. A single touch can bring us closer to the families we love, the friends we know, and the city we share. And Spectrum helps us keep connected throughout the day, every day. Including more ways to watch New York One as a Spectrum Internet customer. Watch Spectrum News New York One on the Spectrum News app, available on all your favorite devices.
I don't know if the world knows this, but kids are expensive. And when we found out we were pregnant, of course, we were looking for any ways to slash bills.
And making sure we only had what we needed so that everything was less stressful.
And saving money with our internet bill really helped us out a lot. Came to Spectrum because we were with AT&T before, and Spectrum just had better deals.
That money we saved with Spectrum just added to what we could repurpose for our daughter.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall, where I am once again joined by my politics panel, Laura Namias of Bloomberg News, and our own Herson Barrero. Let's talk about this race in Texas for U.S. Senate. It shattered records. It's now the most expensive Senate primary in U.S. history, hitting a whopping total of $110 million in campaign ad spending alone. And the primaries are actually not even over yet. There's a runoff scheduled between the Republican incumbent, John Cornyn, who's being challenged by the state's Attorney General, Ken Paxton. On the Democratic side, James Tallarico beat Jasmine Crockett after outspending her 5-1. And mind you, this is all for a job that pays $174,000 a year. Could this be the year that Democrats flip Texas? They've been on the verge of flipping it for a generation, right?
Every cycle, the Democrats in Texas and these blue pockets and what used to be a Democrat-led state get their hopes up, and it just really has not even been close anytime in recent memory. So I wouldn't put any money on it because I don't like to lose any money.
Well, there's more than enough money's been put down on this race.
Right, all that oil money, maybe. I don't know. I couldn't guess.
Well, Texas does it all big, according to them. I think it makes me sick to see this amount of money when so much suffering is still going. When we can't or we refuse to pay the same people, and I don't care if it's Democrats or Republicans, well, you know, you can't. There are children right now. Never mind the schools, the medical care. They're fighting about that. Last year in this city, and these special groups, interest groups, spending $25, $30 million. This is the most disgusting thing about this political system that I find. We should have a cap everywhere. That should be a federal law. You can't spend so much, but so much on that. And what does it get you? I mean, really, what does it get you? Because you wind up getting scoundrels into office because they can outbid you. They buy the vote. I just think this money thing should be settled. And it's elected officials right now in office that actually can do it, but they won't. I mean, it's like the spending and overspending. You buy people, they're for sale in every category.
It's a shocking amount of money for what is, in the end, just one more vote. However you do the Senate politics, a senator is just one vote.
Exactly.
Let's move to the next topic. City Councilwoman Vicky Paladino of Queens is in the news for making anti-Muslim comments that led to her now being investigated by the council's Standard and Ethics Committee, which could recommend a reprimand or even expulsion. Paladino says she has a right to free speech and that she is unfairly being targeted by the council's left-leaning majority. Does she have a protected constitutional right to make crazy comments?
Well, she is a crazy person in my book and the book in the eyes of many New Yorkinos.
I should say offensive. I shouldn't say crazy. Crazy sounds like it's like irrational.
Okay. It's offensive.
It's offensive.
Well, it's the same thing with Sid Rosenberg, who continues to do Islamophobic comments, and a billionaire like John Katzimatidis, who you've had on the show, whines at and puts up with it. So you got people who are advertising on John Katzimatidis' station, Gristedes, boycott Gristedes. So the same thing. Vicky Paladino. What I'm interested in is what they come out as a recommendation, and what is Julie Menin, who actually embraced her even when she made those racist, Islamophobic comments. What is Julie Menin going to do with her?
She's in a tough spot, isn't she?
The thing about America is that she does, in fact, have a protected constitutional right to make these comments, but she is not protected constitutionally from the consequences of making them in a body that sets its own rules. It's the same thing in the U.S. Congress, where the quote-unquote tyranny of the majority sometimes has led to the censure or taking away of committee chairmanships from Congress people who make comments that are offensive to people who are more right-leaning. So she's not protected in that sense. There is a school of thought that says that she shouldn't be expelled necessarily for these comments, leave that up to her voters, but she is certainly not protected from censure or from any potential consequences. She should
be taken. I'm sorry, Laura. No, she should be taken off the 2 committees she's on, chair, or even being a member of. She should just be put in a corner, not given any kind of responsibility. You're right. She can say whatever she wants, but there are consequences, and that should be the whole thing. If I say something here that's offensive, and I do sometimes call people out for stuff, but I think it's within reason. I'm not going to be vulgar. I'm not going to say things that are not, people know that are real. So we have some limits, and we sort of restrict ourselves in doing it, whether we write or we say, because we know they could be offensive. So you don't want to hurt anybody. You don't want to say anything that is not true.
Right. I mean, and look, it is a workplace. People have a right to come to work and not hear things said about their religion and things like that. So it's, I mean, look, we pay them to go down there and work out compromises. They're going to have to work this one out. Laura Namias, Herson Barrero, great talking with the both of you. That is going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks for watching and have a great evening. We'll see you next time inside City Hall. Going into the 2026 election, local races will determine national policy, from the economy to public safety. From the governor's race to the balance of power in Washington, this year's ballot has no shortage of important choices. Let Spectrum News New York One be your resource for balanced, up-to-date coverage and analysis, so you can know what the issues are and how they impact your community. Always dedicated, always local, always on. Decision 2026 on Spectrum News New York One.
This is a very special place. It is a place where we like to think we make memories.
We have the capacity for nearly 20,000 people in the arena.
Working at a building like this, you have access to so many resources. It's about utilizing the tools that we have to be able to create those memories for our partners, for our fans, and for anybody who steps into this building. At the end of the game, they're going to leave here feeling like they enjoyed the experience, enjoyed the game, and that's what we're here for.
A venue like this has a lot of moving parts, but at its heart, it has its technology backbone.
Spectrum powers scoreboards, ticketing, point of sales. They also provide a highly secure network that takes care of fan security, security of the Wi-Fi access, and any data that our fans are sharing while in the arena.
Our fans have an expectation that technology is part of their experience, and Spectrum helps us do that.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news and in-depth interviews of the hottest shows on and off Broadway. So grab a seat, because this is a show you won't want to miss. Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for On